than what we're used to here at the Minnesota Mamoswines. Different team name, still coached by me, JK. What's up, everybody? This is the APDL Season 4 team draft review for our team. We're rebranding a little bit, going to the Minnesota Mamoswine, previously Fargo Flygons / Farmington Flygons. For this season, we've rebranded to the Minnesota Mamoswine. I'm super digging it. And we've got a cool recap video here for you. Excuse me. We just got done with our draft and the first power rankings of the week. Jumping into season 4 here, back to singles. Doubles was a fun little palate cleanser, but man, I am ready for singles again. And we are the defending champions. So, a lot of pressure on us this season to do it right and to defend that title. So, tonight we're going to go through our draft, the 10 Mons that we drafted, kind of talk about why we got them, what we're planning on doing with them, not giving away too many strats, but just enough to keep everybody excited about what's going on this season. And then we'll just go through real quick the Minnesota Mamoswine schedule, and then we'll kind of get into some final thoughts. So that's the plan for the video here, and let's dive right in. So this draft was a little bit different. In seasons previous, we've had a number of different tiers. We've had, you could only draft one Pokemon from like the top tier, 2 from the second tier, etc., etc. This season, we went straight PU, 200 and some Mons, all from the same tier, and the draft was a bloodbath. It was fun. It was crazy. And now, not a lot of plans made it past the first couple of rounds. There were snipes all over the place, and we had some of the things that we were looking at get taken from us, which is totally fine. It's cool. You got to be able to roll with the punches and adapt, and I think we did a really good job of doing that. I will say our first 3 picks that we're going to talk about went flawlessly, went perfect. We wanted a core of some kind. So Fire, Water, Grass, Fairy, Dragon, Steel. One of those 2 type combinations. And I thought right away, if I can get both of those, that's great. If not, let's shoot for one solid core and go from there. So what we did with our first pick is we grabbed Carracosta. This turtle is so good, you guys. I don't have stats up on screen. I'm not going to throw up move sets or abilities or all that stuff. But I will talk about them a little bit here and there. Just kind of my thought process on why I wanted each Pokemon. So, number 1, kind of going back to my Season 1 roots of drafting some bulky defense right off the bat. Carracosta's got base 133 defense. And that in a tier where the stats are all over the place. I mean, we've got Mons with like base 45 in one stat, base 120 in others. So I thought base 133 defense in this tier especially was super good. To go along with that base 74 HP, so it's pretty bulky, pretty able to take some hits, and it's got base 108 attack. So we could dive really deep in defense and just make this thing like unkillable and still have enough natural offense to be a threat. Or we could put everything into offense and then still be bulky enough to take hits and be a defensive wall for the team. Carracosta also gets things like Shell Smash and Aqua Jet, Rocks, so a ton of versatility, setup potential, offense, defense, whatever. I thought it was a great Pokemon to build our team around, and I'm really excited to have it as our first draft pick. So, moving into our second pick, I could not believe Charizard was still there. We had the like the 10th pick, I think, 10th or 11th pick. So pretty deep in the draft. There was 4 people after us. So we had the 10th pick. Yeah. So we had the 10th pick in the draft, and we had gone through. I got Carricosta on round 1, and then we went through all 14 teams, and then first 4. So there had been like 18 picks, and I thought for sure Charizard would be off the board, but it came back to us in round 2, and it was like one of those things where it was like I have to grab it now, or it's gonna be gone later. Fire types were a premium in this draft. There's not a lot of good ones, and that was kind of like with a few key typings. Not a lot of great options, and Charizard having really, really good stats. Base 100 speed, 109 special attack. I felt like I had to grab it. I wanted to build this core, this triangle, rock, paper, scissors, water, fire, grass. And because of its typing, flying and fire, paired with the rock water of Carricosta and our grass ghost pick in number 3, it made a really, really good type coverage across the board for all of their weaknesses. I am really excited to use Charizard. It's a special attacking monster, I think. It's got some great potential. It can also be physical. We've seen that in the past in the Draft League format work in some certain cases. I don't think I'm going to do a ton of that, but who knows? I think it's just a super solid mon. It's got a great move pool, great stats, and I think having a good fire type is like something that I'm really excited about having on the team. Next up, I kind of alluded to it, our 3rd pick, our grass ghost. We got Trevenant, which I think is better than most people are thinking. Trevenants are going to be like one of our mainstay attacking Pokemon. Physical attacking. It's got base 110 attack and 85 HP. So actually it's got some natural bulk. Its defenses aren't great, 76 and 82 respectively. But it's got a ghost typing, so it's a rapid spin blocker. It can do things like harvest and substitute and do cute things that way. It's got a pretty good move pool for the typing that it is, and just being like an offensive grass type I think is super unique. And like definitely worth having. There's a lot of teams after the draft now looking where I think Trevenant has an option to really like do some work and pick up some kills and be an offensive threat that you have to plan for. And I think hazards are going to be super key in this season, just because of the format and how things work. And having a spin blocker I think is going to be, if I can read it, really, really clutch to be able to get that rapid spin blocked, keep hazards down, and then be able to do some cute things on the offensive side with this big spooky tree. So speaking of hazards and hazard removal, especially, our 4th pick is I think one of the premier spinners in the format, and just kind of in competitive Pokemon in general, is Hitmontop. Hitmontop gets a ton of different things. Intimidate, Technician, Fake Out, Rapid Spin, Mach Punch, Sucker Punch, just a whole bunch of utility. Triple Axle if I wanted to get really cute. I just think like Hitmontop is super good. It's got awesome defense, really good attack stat actually too, and I think it could be a really mainstay option in our team, especially going up against those hazards, because there's definitely some things on my team that don't appreciate the rock, and having a really good spinner in Hitmontop gives me a reliable option to get those hazards out and make room for Charizard to come in and clean house, or things like some of my other threats to not have to worry about switching in so often and taking that rocks damage. So I love Hitmontop. I think it's going to be a great option for me week in and week out, and it's kind of self-explanatory. It's just really good on the defensive side, and I think the premier spinner in the format, if not very close to it. So at this point, I'm thinking in my draft, I'm 4 picks in, And speed is something that I'm noticing I don't really have a ton of. And I think the speed tiers in PU are all over the place. So I'm looking at what's left and what's already been drafted, kind of like what I'm looking at. And I wanted to grab something that was like at the top echelon of speed in the format. So we went with Bolton, which is not a Pokemon that I ever thought I would draft, but that's the beauty of this tier, right? Is we get to see things from other perspectives, other Pokemon that we don't normally get to pick, and we get to use them. So I'm really excited about Bolton actually. It's got 121 base speed, which is the 4th fastest Pokemon in the entire format. So already giving me an edge in the speed tiers, and the fact that it's got base 90 special attack and physical attack means it could be a mixed attacker. It could be something that I go physical one week and special the next week. Gives me a lot of versatility. It gives me a U-turn, volt switch, pivot. It's got great attacks and 2 really good abilities. It's got strong jaw for all the elemental fangs if I was running those, or like crunch, and it's also got competitive. So if I can find my opponent has some intimidate users, or it's gonna somebody that's gonna maybe put webs down or something like that, I can have Bolton come in and immediately get that special boost and be able to potentially really hit hard and work some people over. So I really like the Bolton pick. Gives me a fast pivot and a sneaky sweeper with that competitive ability. So I really like that pick. Next up, to round out our top 6 is Glacial, which is not a Pokemon that I think has a lot of versatility, but in the lack of its, because it's a little bit more narrowed down, I think it does its job very well. It is my special sweeper. It's got base 130 special attack. We're a little on the slow side, but it's got good bulk on both physical and special. So I think it's a especially offensive threat. We could do Ice Beam, we could do Shadow Ball. There's some other things that we can kind of work in there. So definitely not the most versatile Pokemon out there, but it's a threat that should be looked at by my opponents every week. And it's bulky enough to where that frail ice typing can maybe still survive and start to do some interesting things on the special side. So definitely something that I'm excited to try out. I have no idea if it's going to be good or not, but that attack stat on the special side being as high as it is not something that you can overlook, and it's definitely I'm excited to try it out. Moving into our back, the rest of kind of the back half of the draft picks 7 through 10 were really where I wanted to pick up utility, a little bit more bulk on the special side, because we're not super defensive on that side of the coin here, and definitely kind of filling in the holes that we have left. For the record, I think these first 6 picks were awesome and they set me up really, really well, but we definitely have some holes that needed to get filled. And like I said, one of those things was some special bulk, and that's where Mr. Mime comes in handy. Mr. Mime, I think, is so derpy, but I think could be a really, really cool Pokemon for our team this year. It is a little frail with that 40 base HP, so not a lot to work with, but it's got a 120 special defense and 100 special attack. So already gives me a special offensive threat potentially, but gives me that bulk that I really need. It's got dual screens, so we can set up light screen and reflect, and it's actually pretty fast. It's got base 90 speed, which in this format is actually pretty high. I can set up Trick Room with this thing. I can do a lot of cute things like that. It's really a supportive mon. It's not going to be getting 6-0 sweeps or anything like that. But I think Mr. Mime is something that gives me some much needed support for the rest of the team, and I'm excited that we have especially defensive Pokemon that has a lot more to it than just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna take a Blizzard every once in a while or something like that. That's a bad example, but you kind of get what I'm saying. Next up is pick number 8, and I kind of was looking at my draft and kind of thinking like, well, what don't I have a lot of? And it was a little bit lopsided, special attack versus physical attack. Not that was like the only determining factor for this, but I was kind of rounding out my type charts, and I noticed that like I had some weaknesses or an opportunity to pick up like a Pokemon that fit a really key, not like a type triangle, but like a key hole in the lineup so far, and that Pokemon was Driftbloom. This thing gives me a couple of different really crazy options. It's got really good abilities. Aftermath is, it's not the craziest thing in the world, but it's something that like I don't think anybody's gonna think that I'm gonna run. And then like I could just like chop somebody's HP way down, with that quarter HP loss. But really like Unburden and Flare Boost are really where I think Driftbloom comes in handy. It gets Defog and things like acrobatics with some items that can go pop on turn 1, or if I get a focus band or something that breaks, or a sash rather. But I think it's just kind of like a really cool option to be. Number one, ghost type is like kind of at a premium. I think there were some really good defensive ghost types in the format, but not a lot of offense on the ghost side. And Driftbloom's actually pretty decent as far as like a special attacking threat. It's got base 90 special attack, and 80 speed is pretty good, 150 base HP. My defenses are not great, obviously, but this thing can be like a suicide lead. I can trick a flame orb onto somebody after I get my flare boost up. I could do a number of different things. It also could just be like, hey, I'm going to come in and choice specs Shadow Ball and destroy your career. So I think it's an interesting kind of more glass cannon option for me. And like Explosion's always cute, right? Like it might not do a ton of damage, but it's something that we can maybe play around with doing, some type of a suicide lead, or getting, Tailwind up or something, more on the support side. So a lot of cool things that I can do with Driftbloom. I'm excited to use it, and it's, I think, a good, solid, like, role player on the team. Next up is another good boy, actually, is Stoutland. I'm noticing I have a lot of like dog kind of Pokemon on the team between Glacial, Bolton, and Stoutland. But Stoutland, I think, is super cool and underrated, and I think honestly like a steal that we got it at our 9th pick. Kind of similar with Driftbloom. I got to a point where I was noticing like kind of like a pretty glaring weakness for me, and that like ghost type was like a problem for me. So to kind of like counteract that, like obviously like normal types are the only answer to ghost type. That's like a for sure, like, oh yep, we just kind of filled that hole. And Stoutland gets Intimidate, which in itself is a great ability. But again, kind of looking at the tier and the format and its stats, like just solid all-around Pokemon. Gets some, not the widest move pool, but has some great options to where, like, I could do, and going back to the Driftbloom option, I could do like a Tailwind on turn 1, having a Focus Sash, Sash gets broken, I live, Tailwind's up, I hit Explosion on the next turn, and then Stoutland comes in and clicks Retaliate or something like that. You know, just silly stuff like that. I don't even know if it would work like that, but I think Stoutland is just kind of like a cool role player. Intimidate, like I said, great move. Base 90 defenses on physical and special side, so it's actually pretty bulky with 85 HP. 110 attack is nothing to sneeze at. 80 speed, again, you know, fast enough to be in a good spot in the format. Not the fastest thing, obviously, but I think Stoutland is a steal at our 9th pick. And then finally, moving into the last pick of the draft, honestly, I had no idea what I was going to do with this last pick. I was kind of just looking over, you know, wanting to get a little bit more bulk. I had some glaring weaknesses that, you know, I wasn't going to fit, you know, another fighting type in the team, or, you know, something that could resist rocks, because rocks is really a problem for me, especially with like Charizard, Driftbloom, and Glacial. Like, they don't appreciate rocks at all. So, you know, that's definitely a problem that I need to figure out and be conscious of week to week. And I didn't help the rock weakness because I drafted a bug flying type actually, even in Vespiquen. So I just really shot myself in the foot for stealth rocks. But I looked at Vespiquen as something that had base 102 defense and special defense, and then base 80 attack and special attack. So like pretty good stats all around. Its speed is butter at 40. Its HP is only 70, so it's not like the best wall per se, but it gets some interesting moves in like attack and defend order. Bug typing is not the best option out there, but I thought like Vespiquen actually, like in this format, like the bug types were really interesting, and a lot of teams were grabbing them, and it kind of was just, you know, a pick where I was gonna experiment. You know, Vespiquen might make it 1 week into the season and then I drop it or trade it or something like that. But I think it gives me like a cool option for like a setup attacker, or just a potential, you know, option to get bulky, or I don't know. I honestly have no idea how I'm gonna run Vespiquen or use it, but having, you know, just another cool option on the team that I'm excited to try out. And like I said, if it doesn't work, we have 4 free agent switches. We have unlimited trades every week. You know, throughout the season, we can trade as much as we want, just 1 per week, but we have that option. So, you know, there's stuff that we can try and do, and who knows, maybe Vespiquen is actually better than I think. But it was kind of like a last ditch effort to like find something cool, something with a little bit more defensive bulk, and try and put it in the team and see what happens. So here's the team. We went Carracosta, Charizard, Trevenant, Hitmontop, Bolton, Glacial, Mr. Mime, Driftbloom, Stoutland, Vespiquen. There's your Minnesota Mamoswines for season 4. I'm really excited. I think our draft went pretty dang well, all things considered. You know, didn't get everything I wanted. Obviously would love to have Magneton on this team. That was something that I really, really wanted. And it got sniped away from me. I looked at Scrafty, which we kind of got a good option in Hitmontop or Stoutland that kind of fills those roles. But Scrafty was something that I really, really wanted. Kadabra. Garrett, you just drafted like a ton of things that I wanted. And I know he did that to some other people too, but you know, just kind of top to bottom, I think our draft was pretty good. I would definitely put us, you know, not to brag and like, you know, put myself at the top of the leaderboard, but I think we're in like the top 3rd for sure. We got picked as the 3rd best team in the power rankings, which is pretty cool. So 3rd out of 14 going into week 1. It feels pretty good, and I'm excited to try these 10 Pokemon out and see how far we can go. There's definitely some things that I wish we would have gotten. but then some surprises that I'm really happy that we were able to pick up. So all in all, pretty good draft. Pretty happy with how things are going, and we'll see how things go. So that's the draft. Real quick before we end, let's just take a look at our schedule for the year, or for the season here. APDL season 4, we kick off the season with a rivalry match against ARC in week 1. It's gonna be hype, you guys. We're gonna play on Wednesday night. It's going to be so hype. I hope you're ready for it. It's gonna be a great way to kick off the season. Noah and I, for those of you who don't know, we're brothers, so this is super, it's always a good game when we get to play each other. It's always fun. It's always super competitive. We're going to try our best and try our hardest, and it really sucks that one of us has to lose in week 1, but that's just kind of how it goes. It'll be fun. It'll be a great way to kick off season 4 as the interconference match. This season, to start off week 1, I play in Division 1, Noah's in Division 2, so we're the interconference game for week 1, which is kind of hype. So we get our interconference game out of the way after week 1, and then week 2 through 7 we play the rest of Division 1. So we kick things off with divisional play against Nanner Nation in week 2. Then we get to play Delwyn James Potter in week 3, North Dakota Neuverns in week 4, and then the back half of the season we go up against the Carolina Cherums, week 6, Laughlin Laurantis and our old rival DJ, and then finally ending out the season against the Jamestown Jolteons and our boy Peyton. So we get a little bit of a bite speed, battle for bite speed kind of thing going on at the very end of the season. I think Division 1 is pretty stacked, top to bottom. I don't think like there's easy wins anywhere in Division 1 or Division 2. Everybody's gonna play great. Definitely like the highlights, or like the big the big matches on our schedule. Obviously week 1 against Noah and the Blackthorn City Blastoise. That's going to be a crazy important game to start the year. Week 4 against North Dakota Neuverns, that could be like a really cool like trap game. I think that team is pretty good. I might fly under the radar, and it's definitely something that I got to be on my A game for. And then like really the last 3 weeks of the season, actually like the last 4 weeks of the season are gonna be difficult. But I think like that game against DJ in week 6, obviously that's gonna be a premier game. As 2 former champions of the leagues, DJ won season 1 and season 3. I am the season 2 champion, so it's going to be pretty awesome to have that game towards the end of the season. Could have some playoff implications. And then like that week 7 matchup against Jamestown and Peyton is going to be probably very important. It always seems like at the end of the year or the end of the season that those last 2 or 3 weeks, like playoff picture really starts to come into play. You're starting to see kind of where people are at. The playoff cut is like really on everybody's mind. So having 2 really, really tough games at the end of the year is scary for sure, and I'm excited for it too though. So that's kind of it as far as like our draft review, our season preview. I'm excited to get back into content creation and making videos again, so I hope that you'll click that little subscribe button, leave a comment, tell me what you guys thought about the draft. Would love to bring you guys along as we try and defend our singles title. We are the defending champion if you take out the double season that just happened. The last time we did APDL and had a single season, we were the top dog. So I'm excited to come back and defend that title. I hope you come along with me. So thanks for watching. We'll see you very, very soon with that week 1 matchup against the Blackthorn City Blastoise. And you know what? Stay frosty.